In-game advertising is a new ad format. It's not the same ad formats that we're used to in the past, whether it's banner ads or video ads, interruptive interstitial video ads. And it's definitely, in order for this to become a long-term business for everybody, for game publishers and developers, for the advertisers, and for the platforms such ourselves, there's some learnings that we're going to have to do here. There's some things that we're going to have to put in place to ensure that this does work for all the stakeholders. And most importantly, so that we can make this a scalable business. I think one of the things that comes up a lot, and we sit on both sides of this at AdInMo, we speak to game publishers and developers, and we speak to advertisers. And I think one of the things that advertisers in particular speak about, but also the publishers, is brand safety. What is the meaning of brand safety? How do we ensure that there is a suitable brand experience? And I think the brand safety probably comes. There's a couple different kind of ways that we can think about brand safety. As I said, is that the right brand for the audience there? But as well, was it a good quality ad? Was it something that the audience was going to notice? So I guess, Marcin, maybe to start with you, could you give us a little bit of insights from both your mindset and from your clients' mindsets, from your advertising buyers? When they think about games, how do they think about their brands and protecting their brands within those games?
Yeah, that's a really important topic. To be honest, it's one of the most important topic. Because when we go to the let's say really big corporation and start talking about communicating with gamers, we came with let's say list of 5 most popular games in each country, and it's usually games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Fortnite, League of Legends, and so on and so on. But not every game is good for them because they have their internal regulations. For example, brand safety means that they can anyhow be connected with violence. And if we have a game, let's say some FPP shooter that is some kind of realistic. CSGO is a great example because for many companies it's too realistic because it's not portrayed in cartoonish way somehow. We can't go with we can do anything with such game because there's brand regulations and they said no, violence is not for us. So automatically we have a whole range of games that are out of business because of such regulations. The way to go around is to portray let's say FPP in some more cartoonish way. For example, for many companies, Fortnite will be a good solution because we still have people with guns, but it's really portrayed in cartoonish way, and then it's not a problem. The other thing we need to remember is all of these regulations that brand books and other elements that our logo must be only on defined colors of background, etc. We need to remember all of these things when implement the ads into the game. So it's harder to do, but it's always possible.
And Jarkko, as we touched on earlier, Rovio have, again, a long history of brand activations and thinking about brand suitability and brand safety. And I presume that's part of why we don't have a Victoria's Secret sponsored Angry Birds, for example. So can you give us a little bit more thoughts about how you guys think about brand suitability and brand safety?
Well, there's kind of two different aspects on that. And first, of course, is the kind of contextual relevance in that specific game and that specific environment. That it really, to start with, needs to feel organic from the player perspective. That for example, if you have a game where you're flying in space and then you see a kind of a latest model of your favorite car manufacturer floating by in space, it might feel a little bit off by the player that, hey, if there's not a very good story that, hey, why this specific kind of a brand or the specific product is there in the specific context. But in addition to that, of course, there needs to be a kind of mutual fit between the content and the audience and the brand in question. And that's something that it's very, there's no one set of rules for that, but it's always kind of mutual understanding between the advertiser and the goals behind the brand there, and with the publisher as well in terms of what they're looking for and what they value in terms of and think that what is relevant and meaningful for their audience.
That's a great point, Jarkko. When we think about it as within AdInMo, trying to respect that game experience. As I said, we're all here for that player, and ensuring that their game experience and the way that the ads and the brands fit in that game experience should be the end goal for all of us. And as this is a new medium, we're still learning, and our game publishers and developer partners are kind of learning on this as well. We have an in-house dedicated game design team that works with game developers to figure out not only where to place these ad placements to ensure that you've got viewability and monetization through impressions, but also just to make sure it kind of fits into the experience. And I think a large part of this that we maybe haven't fully realized yet, and Jarkko, would love your reactions on this to start with, is I think right now a lot of in-game advertising, this happened with interstitial ads as well, a lot of the in-game advertising is kind of an afterthought, right? We'll place it, we've got a sports game, we've got some places here, racing game, we've got some billboards, why don't we place some ads in those? As opposed to making that in-game advertising experience there from the start, there at the actual game design phase. So again, I know that Rovio have done a lot of thinking on this. So what are your recommendations, Jarkko, for thinking about at the earliest phases of game design, marrying advertising and the game experience?
Well, I think that's very, very, very important, and in a way you shouldn't be taking the kind of, even in any kind of free-to-play game, you shouldn't be taking the monetization design out of the game design as well. That it's very, very hard to design a very successful game in a way that, hey, we build the game first, and when the game is ready, let's start to figure out how we actually make money with the game. And what are those value propositions for the player that first of all the player would be willing to pay for, and also what other value proposition there would be, for example, with the advertising integration. So those all those three things should go hand in hand pretty much from almost like from the prototype of the game all the way to the production and for the global launch, in a way that you think through those all elements of, hey, how the player is playing the game and how the player can enjoy the game, and which parts in a game would be, for example, very, very organic parts for very, very integrated advertising spots, in a way that it fits the play and the player flow well, and it's not disruptive to the player in a way that it kind of drive retention down and things like that.
I think in other types of content, you can look at good, and you can look at examples of good and bad integrations. And I used to work in the movie business, and we've all seen lots of really bad product placements in movies. I think sports is sometimes a great example of a very natural fit for how brands work with the type of content. So within the games experience, and coming from the gaming side, we're all very protective of that game experience. But Marcin, you as a representative of the advertisers, how do you think about the game experience and where your brand fits into that, or where your brands fit into that?
So obviously, as you mentioned, it's really easy to imagine that in sports game we simply add the real brands to the brands, and it's even better for the experience because it makes the virtual world more real. The same with the racing games. But as we've seen on this market, there is a way to, you know, place advertise even in the really fantastic worlds. For example, Riot makes some recently makes some good, let's say, try to do that in their esport tournaments. They simply place banners with, I believe, MasterCard logo on the recent tournaments, and this don't ruin the experience because it was placed on very natural context. The banners was already in the game. They simply put the logo in a way that there is no harm. But of course, from my perspective, it's a huge challenge to have a game like, for example, Angry Birds, and make really make FMCG product to put it and feel it natural. Probably you have some solutions, but you need to think about it. You need to work around some solutions to make it feel natural and to make it don't interrupt the game experience. And that's really important from my perspective, because, you know, you can always, as I said before, you can always go place an ad somewhere in the game and finish your business, but that even could make a communication crisis, because if players won't be happy, they are really vocal, as I said before, and you know, all the big titles premiere, and all the mess in media we have with, for example, Cyberpunk and other titles. That's all what gamers do if they don't happy. So you need to be really extra careful when do something with this within this world.
Thank you.